Welcome to Self-Love Ignited. My name is Katie Allen. I am your host, and we are all about igniting the flame of self-love and body acceptance inside of you. This podcast is here to inspire, motivate, and educate you so that you really, truly can learn how to love all parts of yourself. What are you waiting for? Let's get to it. Welcome back to the podcast. This is our very first episode of 2021, and it is so good to be back. I took a little hiatus off over Christmas and over New Year's, both for the holidays and also because at the beginning, the first week of January, I hosted the Body Peace Summit. Now, you may or may not have heard of this, but if you have not, the summit was a beautiful collection of 12 guest experts where we looked at body image. And really, it was coming at it from a whole bunch of different angles with the intention of helping summit participants find peace within their bodies. When I was thinking about how I wanted to start the podcast up again and what I really wanted to bring you, I have lots of great ideas moving forward into this new year, but it didn't feel right to dive on in without first having a look at the summit, at some of the highlights. So a few of these first episodes of the podcast in the new year are going to be just that. We're going to be diving into some of the highlights, some of the big takeaways from the summit. Today, I am bringing you a snippet of the interview I did with the incredible Elijah Selby. Now, Elijah was the speaker who kicked off the summit. Her session was first, and it was titled simply The Politics of Body Image. Now, Elijah does a lot of work in really talking about feminism, in talking about the patriarchy, and she does so many beautiful things in the world. And I asked her to come on and speak with us about body image and essentially about where sort of the challenges with body image started on a cultural level, as well as who benefits when we hate on ourselves. Because newsflash, it's not you. When you are criticizing yourself, when you are looking in the mirror and picking at your body, or when you feel like you're not good enough, there is somebody out there who is benefiting either directly or indirectly, and it is not you. So that is really what Elijah's talk centered on. I listened through and I took out sort of some of the bits that felt the most important. So what you're going to hear today is not the entire session we did with Elijah. It is simply some of it, but it is powerful. It is informative. And really, as we jump into this new year, really as we step into a place of loving ourselves and accepting our bodies more, having a little bit of this baseline understanding really, I think, will do so much for you. So I'm going to jump on into that snippet, but just so you know, the interview starts with her speaking, but I have just asked her the question, the conversation of body image and politics and the patriarchy is a very complicated one. So where do we even start? Where do we even start? And this is her answer.
Yeah, it's a big question. So let me just start at least some sort of a beginning here. So we want to start with the understanding that the power structure in which we in the white Western world live, by the way, this is in other cultures too, but I'm just being really clear that this is the culture that I can speak to, okay, is that of the patriarchy. What is the patriarchy? At its core, it's a system, it's a hierarchical system wherein a few people dominate the many, okay? In this system, we have concepts that we kind of live by of like individualism and getting a leg up on other people. And there's lack, for example. I need to get mine or else. It's like, if you get mine, then there's none for me. There's this lack, there's like finiteness, competition. It's sometimes what people refer to as toxic masculinity, where, and this is a longer conversation, but so I'll touch on things here, where that which we consider to be masculine is at the extreme. So extreme it becomes toxic. I sometimes just refer to that as the patriarchal masculine. What's interesting about as I said, it's where like a few dominate the many. It's the white men that dominate. And actually, most men are actually not included in that. So one of the things that I think is really important, and I just got into a little dialogue on this on an Instagram post that I had, is men suffer from patriarchy as well. It's just like anything, when there's a system that isn't just and equitable, like everybody loses actually. So another conversation, but we'll just bookmark that. So where that comes in, so one of the really, okay, so if we look back in time, and I think this is interesting to help understand how we got here, there were these cultures of goddess worship in which women, our bodies, and our ability to create life were revered and honored and celebrated. Mm-hmm. And over time, monotheistic religion took over. Specifically, Catholicism kind of took over Europe. Yeah. And you guys know, and there's a great documentary I recommend called The Burning Times, which is available for free on YouTube, The Burning Times. So the Catholic Church, in its desire to gain control over the masses, right? Because Europe prior to them taking over, it was like lots of many entities doing different things. Right. Okay. So one of the things they did was they started creating suspicion around women, which the word witch, as we know the word witch, right now in our culture, we think of it as like green and warty and evil and ugly and toothless and all these things, but it used to be a positive word. So there's all this like history around like really positive words around women were turned into negative words. So witch, crone, and hag all were positive words. And there was like basically propaganda against witches. And as you know, many women and some men got burned at the stake. And there was this really interesting thing that happened, which most of the women that were burned at the stake were healers. And so it brought doubt and suspicion onto women who were in touch with the healing arts, were in touch with their intuition, were in touch with that which is our power. Yeah. And it also brought suspicion between women, right? Because your neighbor could just say one word about you and you were turned in. So I say like one of the number one paradigm of the patriarchy is to make sure all women feel like they're not good enough, period. But there's another paradigm of the patriarchy, which is women are your competition. And that keeps us apart when it's really sad because our strength comes from we're together. Okay, so that was the beginning of many different things. So come to our modern day and age in this, $1 trillion industry of diet and beauty. Yeah. First of all, there's people that are profiting off of our desire to look a certain way. We know that. Who's profiting? Pretty much white men. Not entirely, but percentage-wise, white men. Yeah. And there's so many layers to this, but let me start by saying this. How much energy in your head, and I ask this to anybody that's watching this, how much time and energy do you spend each day thinking about what you're going to eat? And often the thought is not just what am I going to eat, but what am I going to eat that's going to make me thin? Mm-hmm. Right? My hair, getting my hair done, getting my nails done, looking a certain way, what clothes am I wearing? Do I need to get Botox? Do I need to exercise? What exercise do I do? How do I do? Like reading articles on like, what's the best way to lose weight? I mean, like a tremendous amount of time and energy, amount of time and energy. So underneath that is this core thread and belief that like we all have of I'm not good enough the way I am. I'm not good enough the way I am. So like the next question is, what do we get? What do we get if we accomplish that beauty standard? If I'm like thin and young and white, because it's definitely like our beauty standards are white. So let me just be clear that women of color, trans women, women who are not able-bodied, like they're just gay, lesbian, they're out, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not even like on the docket of like receiving whatever rewards society gives us if we kind of step into like thin, nice, pretty, um, you know, white. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it that we think we're gonna get when we achieve that? So first of all, we can't achieve it. It's like so unachievable, right?
Mhm.
And then what is it we think we're going to get if we get that?
Yeah.
Now, I think that's an important question, and I hope everybody reflects on that. But I will tell you that it doesn't even matter, because the point is we're chasing our tail. And if we're chasing our tail and we're putting this much time and energy into how we look, which is really what it comes down, it's so much of it's how our body looks and the control over our bodies, and our bodies on our own, and our bodies are objectified, and our value is in how good we look. So if we don't look good, do I have value, right? So if all of a sudden I thought I was good enough the way I am, oh my gosh, what would become possible? What energy would be freed up? How would I see the world? How would I wake up in the morning? It's a radical concept that I think some women can't even imagine.
Yeah. That, just when you said that, like, that's powerful. Like, that's a powerful thought. Like, what if? And I think
What
you're right. I think so many people couldn't even imagine that because it's so far from our current reality.
It's so far from our current reality. I one time did this. I was just doing this session on Zoom with a group of women, and we were doing journaling prompts. And the last journaling prompt I asked was, what would become possible if all of a sudden all women thought they were good enough to, despite like their weight, their body, their hair, their eye color, their marital status, their children or childless status, the color of their skin, um, what would happen? And two women at the same time that were, not connected said, world peace.
Wow.
I know. I was like, whoa, yeah, okay. And like, I thought about that. I'm like, well, why world peace? And then I thought, yeah, because if we weren't chasing our tails, like, what's the work we could do here in the world? How would
Yeah.
we show up differently? How do I show up right? And I think you can get a glimpse of it is like, we all have days where we feel good and we feel kind of hot and we're like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then like we show up a certain way when we're like that. So that gives us a glimpse of like what, like if we, but really the interesting question for me is like, why are we like, even in, and I don't like, I think the body positivity movement is crucial for our mental health. So let me just be clear, but what's so interesting about the conversation that's taking place, and this is why it's like, yep, we're in the patriarchy, is like, we're still talking about our bodies and we're still talking about beauty as a standard.
Yes.
Men don't have that conversation.
Yeah.
It's not the conversation. So like, do you think daily about your intellect?
Yeah. I don't know. Do I? Probably not as much as I think about, am I going to curl my hair and what shirt am I going to wear for my Zoom calls?
Totally, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So it's like, what if, okay, this is like, I'm playing with this idea. Like, what if we just didn't even think about our bodies at all?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine that, to be honest with you. Like, I am in the patriarchy too, right? I wanted to look good for this call, and it's totally fine to want to look good. Like, that's not saying that. Let me just be clear. I mean, I've thought about like, oh, well, why do I wear jewelry? Like, why, and I, I just think this is some of the questions we need to ask ourselves. And like what I try and feel is like, am I doing this to adorn myself because it's for me, or am I doing this for outward approval? And, you know, sometimes I'm not sure. So, but these are the questions we need to ask ourselves and reflect on as we're dismantling this concept that somehow, in order to have value, it's important to look a certain way.
Yeah. And I think that's so much like everything that you've said, and so much of this, it really is just asking yourself those questions, isn't it? And it's just being aware and not taking things for granted and going like I put earrings on this morning. Why did I do that? I curled my hair this morning. Why did I do that? Like, and like you said, one way is not better or worse. It's not demonizing it. Like you're allowed to take pride in your appearance. You're allowed to want to look a certain way, like 100%. But it's why, and is that either what you're using to validate yourself, or is it taking away from other things in your life where you could be better or rising up or putting more energy into? Thank you so much for being here. I hope that by listening to a little bit of Elijah's insight, that it can help you really understand body image on a bit of a deeper level. I think so often we are really quick to blame ourselves when it comes to our relationships with our bodies, you know, and we can all go through the phase of, oh, why can't I just get over this? Why can't I just be nice to myself? Why am I such a bitch to myself? Why am I always so critical? And really understanding that these things come from a deeper level. This is a deep-seated cultural thing that we have all been raised with, and it's not all your fault. It is not all your fault. And really, a big shift needs to change at the cultural level. And the beautiful thing is that you are empowered to change this in your own life right now. You can learn to overcome this. You can come out the other side. You can make peace with your body. You can become friends with yourself. So, that being said, if you want to listen to Elijah's entire interview, if you want access to her exercise, if you want to listen to the whole summit and all 12 speaker sessions, there is an all access summit pass that is available. This pass lets you get immediate ongoing access to all 12 of the sessions, all of the interviews, all of the exercises, and all of the summit only material that was created. It is available for the small price of just 44 Australian dollars. If you happen to be in the US, that is super cheap for you because of exchange rates right now. But regardless, 44 Australian dollars gets you in instant access. If you want to find out more about the summit, there is a link in the show notes. You can click on through, read more about it, and get instant access right there. I have also put the link to Elijah's website in the show notes. So if you want to find out more about her and the incredible work that she does, please click on through and do that. I would love to connect with you on social media. I am on Facebook and Instagram just as Katie Allen Coaching. The links are in the show notes. If we're not connected there, please come on over and say hi. I would love to talk to you over on social media. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Here is to you loving yourself.